My name is Anupama. I'm a careers advisor and I work for Skills Development Scotland, Scotland's skills agency and career service. This webinar, Get Noticed, will cover everything you need to know about how to create great CVs and covering letters. If you don't have a CV, then this webinar will get you started. And if you do, you should get some ideas to help you improve your CV. The session is based on Section 5 of the Positive Steps to Your Future Handbook, which can be accessed electronically by visiting www.skillsdevelopmentscotland.co.uk, clicking on Publications and Statistics, and search using the keywords Positive Steps. So you may find it useful to take notes during the session, so do have a paper and pen handy. So what we're going to cover today is we'll talk about what goes into a CV so that you can produce a CV which best suits your and the employer needs. A CV is personal to you and therefore no two CVs are alike. It is the employer that ultimately decides what makes the perfect CV, but we will go over best current practice when it comes to CV writing. We will take you through the layout and headings commonly used in CVs, and we will discuss each in turn. It is not a requirement to use all the headings or have them in the same order. The main aim is to provide relevant information and prioritize it effectively. Then we'll also look at applicant tracking systems or ATS. So these are widely used by employers and we'll give you our top tips for helping your CV beat the ATS so that it will be read by a real person. And finally, the covering letter, because it can be the first impression from an employer will get of you and may determine whether they read your CV or not. And we'll discuss covering letters at the end of this webinar. So what is a CV and when would you use this document? CV is short for curriculum vitae and is a vital part of the job search process. A CV is a document that you would use to explain to an employer why you would be a suitable candidate for the job. It is a personal marketing document used to sell yourself to prospective employers. It should tell them about you, your work experience, and your skills, abilities, and achievements. Ultimately, it should highlight why you're the best person for the job. It can be used for an advertised vacancy that you would find on a recruitment or company website. You can also use it to make speculative approaches to employers to find out if they have any vacancies that would be suitable for you. A speculative approach is when you contact an employer to inquire whether they would consider offering you an opportunity. The employer is not advertising a position, but you want to work for them. Remember, a CV is a working document that you will continually update as you gain new skills. There is no one CV that will suit every job, so your CV should be tailored to each job you apply for by matching your skills, strengths, achievements, experience, and qualifications to the employer's requirements. Putting this information together can be a big job. However, once it's done, you will have all the core information you need to write different CVs. You can change the content, style, layout, etc., and easily add or remove information in the future. So start by putting together a folder of all your information. This can be online or on paper. Gather any details of learning or training you have completed. Make sure you have the dates and locations of all the work you have done. This includes voluntary work. Then think about your key skills, strengths, and achievements. Even if you already have a CV, it can still be a good idea to store this information in one place as your CV will change depending on the job applied for and shouldn't be a dumping ground to list everything you've ever done. Your aim is to convince the employer that you are worth inviting for an interview. The CV should look good and provide the employer with as much relevant information about you as possible in a clear, concise, and logical way. It should be a positive statement about you. To achieve maximum success, it helps to have a specific job in mind so that you can focus your thoughts and target your efforts. A CV is simply not a list of what you've done in the past. So rather than solely considering the tasks you've undertaken in previous jobs, you should think about what you've done that is most relevant to a future employer and prioritize this information. Once you have all the information together, you can start building your CV. If you have good IT skills, creating a CV on Word document can be good. If you need help with the layout, then an online template can be a helpful starting point, but would need to be customized to your own circumstances to work effectively. Of course, another option is to ask someone to do it for you. This could be a friend or a relative. Either way, make sure that you can access and edit the CV when you need to. Now, what to include and what to leave out in the personal details. Your personal details should be at the top of the CV. This is your name and details of how a potential employer can contact you. There is no need to provide an address if you have an up-to-date email address and a telephone number, but you may wish to include your general location, for example, Glasgow or Edinburgh. Make sure your email address is appropriate for use on a CV. For a professional approach, use a personal email address that includes your name. There is no need to include your date of birth, national insurance number, or photograph. Now, there are a few things for you to think about. You need to only include contact information for the way you want to be contacted. It is unlikely that someone will send you a letter by post, so communication is more likely to be by email. So you need not put your full address if you don't want to. However, it can be useful for an employer to know which town or area you live in so that they can be confident that you can commute to work easily. On the other hand, you may be applying for an opportunity that requires you to work from home, so your address would not be necessary. You may also want to include a link to your LinkedIn profile if you have one. If you include this information, make sure that your LinkedIn account is up to date and reflects the sector you wish to work in. Now let's move on to consider the key features of your CV, starting with the personal profile. A personal profile, also known as a personal statement, career objective, and professional profile, is one of the most important aspects of your CV. It's a short paragraph that sits just underneath your name and contact details, giving prospective employers an overview of who you are and what you're all about. So let me show you some examples. So here's the first one. A highly motivated individual with excellent personal and communication skills, flexible, adaptable team worker who can also work on own initiative, good timekeeper, hardworking and trustworthy, with the ability to remain good-humored and unflappable under pressure. So, what do you think of this example? Is it good or bad? Now, I would say it's a bad example. The reason is because it's not personal, it's bland, and it's not targeted to a specific job. Now let's have a look at this example. Experienced care assistant with a mature and responsible attitude, sound background delivering home support services to a diverse client base, including older people as well as those with learning physical disabilities and mental health issues. Dedicated to promoting independent living and comfortable undertaking personal care activities. Skilled in managing challenging behaviors whilst ensuring the health and safety of clients. Now think about this example. What is different about it? This personal profile clearly identifies the individual's background and key skills that directly relate to the positions they have held, and therefore it's much more relevant and useful. The person is applying for a job in a care setting and already has experience in this type of work. So you can use the job description to help you identify the name of the job that you're applying for, the skills required for the job, and the key tasks that you would carry out. And use all of this information on what you know about yourself to create a personal profile that matches what the employer is looking for as much as possible. And always remember to review and alter your personal profile every time you use your CV to apply for a job, as things like job title and skills required can vary from employer to employer. A really useful way to create engaging content for your CV is to think about your features and benefits. This is linked to what we discussed in the previous slide about the difference between a doer and an achiever. The doer concentrates on their features, while an achiever showcases the benefits they can bring to the employer. Now, features are facts. The list of items on your CV that describe you, who you are, where you work, dates you were there, job titles, employers, education, community involvement, voluntary work, and so on. Now, features are converted to benefits. Now, benefits convert features into relevant information. Benefits describe the value that a potential employer might find in one of your features. So whoever is reading the CV is going to ask, so what? How is this relevant? Why should I care? What can you do for me? An employer will recruit you because of the benefit they hope to obtain. So anything that you've achieved at work brings benefits to your employer. This might be more sales, lower costs, quicker or simpler solutions, better standards of customer care, and so on. A future employer wants to know what benefits you brought to your last employer. This will encourage them to believe that you might be able to bring similar benefits to their company. Therefore, recognizing past achievements, identifying them clearly, and being able to write and speak about them with confidence is vital to achieving success. So I'm going to show you an example of how you can turn your features into benefits. So here are the features on the first table here. It says, I have good communication skills. I deal with customer complaints. So now you ask the question, so what? And then you will get the answer. I provide workable solutions when faced with complaints from customers while remaining polite, tactful, and firm. Now take a moment to consider the difference. Turning your features into benefits can really help to sell yourself to employers. Once you are skilled in identifying your achievements, you may wish to include an achievement section in your CV. Remember, if you need support to do this, Skills Development Scotland has a careers helpline that you can call for advice. You can phone for free on 0800 917 8000 Monday to Friday 9 to 5 p.m. to speak to an advisor. So now we will move on to look at what to include in the employment section of your CV. Now this section focuses on the facts about what you have done. It is common to put jobs in reverse order, that is the most recent job first. However, if you have a job that you've done in the past which is more relevant to the job that you're applying for now, so you can highlight it at the top of the section on employment. And the layout should include the job title, employer, and dates, as well as the duties of the job. It is also important to include any skills that you've developed as part of the job. I've put a couple of things to think about on this slide. First of all, how far should you go in your history? This might differ according to employer or sector, but a general rule would be 10 to 15 years. Recent experience is likely to be more relevant, and as mentioned, a CV that is relevant and to the point is what you should be aiming for. However, if your relevant experience is older, then think about how to prioritize the information on your CV. For example, you could have a heading relevant work experience and another heading other work experience. Sometimes the job requires it. Certain companies, and particularly government or civil service roles, will require you to list all of your work experience since you left full-time education. This is often the case in construction industry also. And what about the gaps in your employment history? Now, gaps can be quite common for a lot of people. The most important thing is to avoid employers making up their own stories to explain gaps. So do mention any breaks from the labor market if you can. For example, you've taken a break to raise a family, care for relatives, go into full-time education, and so on. You don't need to list gaps as part of your employment history, though. This information may sit better in an additional information section at the end of your CV. And you can also explain all of this in more details in your covering letter or at an interview. The content for an education and training section can be formal and informal learning at all levels. If you have attended a number of training courses, you should consider highlighting the most relevant or summarizing them on the CV. You can put a full list on a separate page if need be. For anything that doesn't fit into the headings mentioned so far, I would recommend a final section titled Additional Information. Now, the additional information section is for anything you feel worth mentioning and may be relevant to the job, but the information doesn't fit into any other heading on the CV. It could include things such as car ownership or driving license. You may also want to mention hobbies and interests if you have gained useful skills from these. Examples could also include teamwork if you've been a member of a sports team, or financial skills if you were in charge of a club membership. However, if an activity you do outside of work, that is voluntary work, community work, which involves using skills and experience relevant to the job you're applying for, then it can go further up the CV under the heading such as relevant experience. And as mentioned, you can also include details here of the time out of the labor market, for example, due to unemployment or relocation or education. So the last section you can include in your CV is references. Now, having a reference section with a list of names and contact details, or even a note stating references available on request on your CV, is no longer expected by employers. However, you must have at least two, preferably three people who you have asked that are happy to be a referee for you. Get in touch with them to find out if they are available and willing to help, and how best they would like to be contacted. Would it be by phone or email? It is really important that this contact information is up to date for as long as you want to use that referee. If your referee moves on as a result of career change or redundancy, then their work email will no longer be valid. So a personal email address might be best. Some employers only give factual references. This means they will give details such as the dates you worked for them, but perhaps little else about your abilities as a worker, your skills, strengths and achievements, or how capable you would be in a new role. Now, this can be frustrated, but we have some ways which you can deal with this in detail, and this is provided in the Positive Steps Handbook, pages 77 to 78. Now, I did mention about um, applicant tracking systems briefly, which is commonly known as ATS. Now, they are used by many employers, recruitment agencies, and job vacancy sites to scan your CV before the top candidate's information is passed to the recruiter. So how can you stand the best chance of getting your CV past their computers and read by a real human being? Now, here are some of the things that can help. The do's are: use a font that is Arial, Calibri, Tahoma, or Verdana. Use a font size 11 as a minimum and try to keep a 1.5 line spacing. Include all the keywords and phrases unique to the job you're applying for. Include as much information as you can that matches your skills, qualifications, and experience to the job. Put employer names and job titles on the left-hand side of the document. And the tip there is keep your heading simple. For example, just say work experience. Other things you shouldn't do is don't include tables, diagrams, pictures, or graphics. Don't use headers or footers. Again, no abbreviations. And don't only send a PDF version of the document. Note that while it can be helpful to have your CV in a PDF format, as most systems can open this, they are not easily read by ATS. So it can be a good idea to contact the employer if you can find out what format works best for them. And if you're in doubt, send a Word version as well as a PDF version. And the good news is that the applicant tracking system does not care about the length of your CV. However, it's worth bearing in mind that when your ATS friendly CV gets past the system onto the desk of a recruiter, it will still have to conform to the accepted practice when it comes to writing a CV. And employers and recruiters will have their own preferences on the length of the CV, but 1 to 3 pages is acceptable. I've put in a tip over there is where you can try the ATS for yourself before actually applying for a job. An example of the site you can use is www.jobscan.co. Now this site, you can sign up to get 5 free scans per month. So you upload your CV and the job description to check how well they match using the ATS. And many recruitment agencies also offer this service, but you shouldn't have to pay for it. Now we come to a covering letter. That is the first impression the employer will get of you and may determine whether they read the CV. So it is often overlooked, but a very important part of the application process. This slide shows how to go about writing a cover letter. The broad content of the letter, depending on the relevance, should include the following paragraphs. So first paragraph should state the purpose of the letter, why you're writing it, the position you're applying for, and where you found out about the vacancy. In paragraph 2, you can talk about why you're suitable for the role, why the employer should choose you. Use any job information and match this to your skills, achievements, and experience to show you have what they're looking for. Now, paragraph 3 outlines your motivation for applying, why you want the job, and why you're interested in the company. And finally, paragraph 4 should mention any additional information you are including with the letter, for example, your CV or an application form. And also mention what you want to happen next and a call to action by you or the employer. For example, you could say, I will be pleased to attend for interview to discuss my application in more detail, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. It is useful to address the letter to a named person. Now, this information is often on the job advert or job description if available, but if you're in doubt, contact the employer to find this out. This is especially important for speculative applications, as it means the letter will be read by the right person. Keep it to one page or make your email your covering letter, and make sure you follow the letter format and attach your CV to the email. And you can always get your covering letter checked by an SDS advisor. So you will now have all the information you need to create a great CV and a covering letter. Think about what action you will take as a result of attending this webinar. Take a moment to note down a couple of things. If you don't have a CV, why not get started? You never know when you might need one. And if you already have your CV, you will now know how good it is and if it needs revisiting. I would really recommend trying out a free applicant tracking system like JobScan. Upload your current CV along with the job description, the role that you're applying for or would like to apply for in the future, and see how well your CV matches what the employer is looking for. This is a really quick and easy way to start to identify any gaps or errors in your CV. Again, if you want someone to look over your CV or covering letter, please get in touch with our careers advisors who will be happy to help. So please remember that if you want to discuss any aspect of your career, including CVs and career covering letters, please call our Skills Development Scotland helpline on 0800 917 8000, where one of our fully qualified and experienced careers advisors will be able to support you. You can also click on the link or scan the QR code on the screen to request a call. If you prefer, you can meet a careers advisor at one of our Skills Development Scotland career centres. Use the Find a Centre tool at myworldofwork.co.uk to access local support. You will also find more useful information on the website to help you consider your options and move on successfully. And if you have enjoyed this webinar, do watch the others in the series Positive Steps to Your Future, which are available on My World of Work YouTube channel. Thank you and goodbye for now.